We've talked about so many difference makers when it comes to running effective trainings. It's time to talk about yet a very important core skills. Remember those 5 that we talked about? Setting up the right environment, making sure we present with a vibe, we deal with the different characters, we manage group dynamics, and we actively listen and ask powerful questions. So let's explore these 2 topics now. Actively listening in training and facilitation is really important. According to Julie Carr, the author of the book, The Coaching Manual, there are 4 levels of listening. There are lots of models for this, but I think this is a very simple one and easy to relate to. Level 1 of listening is like listening to the radio or the TV when we are driving a car or making dinner or lunch. That's surface listening. We kind of register what's being said, but we don't pay attention to it. Level 2 listening is conversational listening. I put a picture of a party there because imagine that you meet people in a networking event or at a birthday party. You talk, you listen, you add comments, but overall you don't register everything they say. Then you have the 3rd level, which is active listening. Active listening is when you pay attention and you are able to mirror back what is said, and you pay attention to why it was said. And the 4th levels of listening is deep listening. That's usually what therapists, psychologists, and psychiatrists are doing. It's a skill, a talent that maybe not all of us possess just yet. So my question, in training and in facilitation, what level are we aiming at and why? Let's take a moment. Surface listening. Imagine we just keep going on and on and on. People say something. Well, I'm not sure what they say, but I will keep going on and on and on. It would not be an effective training because you don't build on the knowledge, skills, and expertise of the group. Let's assume you are in level 2, conversational listening. You might get into a dialogue with certain characters, maybe alpha males or the analyzer or the charisma people. But you would not be able to really see what is said and why it's said just yet. It would be just a nice chat you could have outside of a training whilst you have dinner or a drink with someone. Yet, for trainings and facilitations, we recommend you always to get to level 3, because level 3 is allowing you to just be present to the people and understand what they say. Do you remember what we talked about in the previous video from Stephen Covey? Seek to understand, then be understood. Seek to understand comes from the opportunity of hearing what people are saying and being able to feed it back. Deep listening is one that it takes a lot of talent and education, so it's not really expected. If you can do it, that's brilliant. But if you're a human like myself, we will settle for level 3. Now, many people ask me in trainings, how can I do it? And a couple of very simple tips I would say is mirroring back what the participants say, not repeating. It's mirroring back. I understand this is what you were saying, or using their words, very powerful. The second one is to paraphrase. So you said that, basically it means this, right? And you get a confirmation on that, very, very helpful. Or if someone is saying a certain message or sharing an idea, you follow it up with a question that builds on that idea. And that allows them to feel heard, understood, and listened to. What helps me if my mind is preoccupied or there's a lot of content we need to cover is to take a couple of notes, possibly on a post-it. So when people are talking, I have a post-it pack and I write down just keywords they say, not everything, I'm not scribing, but afterwards I put it on a flip chart. So I make it visible to them that I'm building on their ideas. And even if there are lots of thoughts and lots of content for me to cover, I will be able to capture that and keep referring back to it. So active listening is really important. And in your teachbacks, I'm going to watch out for this. Are you actively listening to what people are saying? Are you building on it? And that's a very important skill to really create a learning environment for adult learners. The other thing we wanted to talk about is not just listening, but also asking the questions. So what makes a question powerful? I would ask you. What makes a question powerful? most people say is when I get to think, when I don't know the answer right away, when I'm allowed to elaborate on an idea that pops up in my head, or when I'm challenged in terms of how I think of a certain topic right now, when I'm allowed to say things that come to my mind. Those are powerful questions. There are 4 types of questions I'd like to briefly talk to you about. I believe they are quite straightforward, but sometimes when we are training, we might be a little bit tense and stressed about asking the right questions and engaging the group and still making sure that the substance of ATT is passed over to people. We sometimes tend to ask closed questions. Those are the questions that people answer with yes, no, maybe. Did you know that in this country we have this challenge? Yes, no, maybe. It doesn't generate discussion. If we are too stuck on the content, we might be tending to ask a lot of closed questions, but it doesn't help to engage, to facilitate the dialogue with the people. So try to refrain from that. The opposite of that, of course, is open-ended questions. What would they be? I often say it's the 5W and H questions. H is how, and the 5W is what, why, where, when, and the 5th one I forgot, but I will show you in the next slide. So open-ended questions allow people to explore what that it is. What do you think about my proposal? Why do you think this happened to the country in our case study? Where else do you think we could apply the same principle? Etc., etc. So open-ended questions. The next one is loaded or leading questions. When you are an expert of a topic, you will likely commit the mistake of asking several leading or loaded questions. It means that you hide the answer into the question. So, for example, you are talking about the impact of ATT on the gender issues. And then you say, why do you think working on the gender issues and talking about it with key stakeholders would be so important? You already tell them that it's important and you just ask them why it's important, but you kind of answer the question already. You can generate discussion from that, but people will not feel that it was their idea. So use it with caution, not all the time. Don't always hide the answer into the questions because people will sense it. They are not engaged to think. And the last one is echo questions. Echo questions, not that frequent. Close questions and leading questions are much more heard and they're not so conducive. But echo questions are questions where you say, so you said this is the way forward. These are the 3 steps we should follow when we are reporting out on certain cases, right? Again, it's a kind of closed questions. You repeat it, it has a bit more content, but again, use it with caution. Don't let your training facilitation be dominated by these types of questions. Just for the sake of remembering it, of course, here are the 5 W and 1 H questions. How, and the W's are who, where, when, what, and why. These are probably the most powerful questions, but sometimes when we are in the midst of a training, we don't remember how to ask them. What I'd like to ask you now is to discuss how we can open closed or leading questions up to engage the audience and come up with 2-3 tactics at least to help us make all the questions in our training powerful. Go ahead and enjoy. Thank you.